Hey, Tom Manson here. Congratulations on making it to video 4. Way to go, trooper. Way to follow through. If you've missed the other 3, look for your inbox using the same tag we have in the subject line here and make sure you get a chance to watch them. Yesterday, we overviewed the 6 simple agreements in the document file. You definitely want to listen to that one. Today, we're going to talk about 2 of the more detailed, more complex agreements that you get that cost the real big bucks, actually. One is an asset purchase agreement, and one is a joint venture agreement, a full joint venture agreement. So the asset purchase agreement is used when you're buying another business, but you don't want to be concerned with the liabilities or exposure that might be attached to that other business. As I record this video, we've signed a letter of intent to actually purchase a bunch of assets from a major player in our space, and that's exactly the type of format we're going to use as an asset purchase agreement. There are a lot of elements to a good asset purchase agreement, and you will see a sample of one in this form for you to look at. And don't be intimidated by the length. I think this one is around 12, 13 pages long. It's got a number of different sections. You just take a look at each of the sections. You'll make changes to update it for what you're talking about. And if there are sections you haven't discussed with your potential partner or client or whoever you're buying the assets from, you reach out to them and have a conversation. Say, well, we never did talk about warranties and covenants of the purchaser or warranties and covenants of the vendor. Let's talk about that. Or we never did talk about conditions to close, or we never did talk about obligations at closing, right? Easy to go through, easy to have a discussion, get all the terms so you're both in agreement on it, and then, as always, take it to an attorney or a lawyer in your local area and get their once over on the final agreement. It'll actually save you a ton of money, and you'll make sure you're covered going through. We're not lawyers. We don't play them on TV. But we do have these beautiful templates to help you do that. So asset purchase agreement, talk about risk of loss and attorney and governing law and waivers and notice and all kinds of other things that are important. And if you're buying a business, we recommend most of the time consider an asset purchase agreement as opposed to actually buying the shares of the business. There are times where that also makes sense. Now, that's the asset purchase agreement. The next one is one that I use all the time. In fact, some of you know I've started some 93 businesses over the years. Many have been done with this last agreement. And that is something that is known as a full joint venture agreement, a joint venture agreement. So this is an agreement where you and someone else can partner running a business. You and someone else can partner starting a business. You and 3 or 4 or 5 other people can do the same thing. You'll see the terms finder and venturer. As you go through it, know this. This is the document I use for all of my big deals, every single one of them. I use this one all the time. I have for over 20 years. It comes from the real estate world. In the real estate world, there are joint venture agreements done all the time. If you're outside the U.S. and you've downloaded these documents, the term joint venture may not even be something you're familiar with. In most other parts of the world, there isn't a legal structure called joint venture. So you might need to set up a corporation that runs and owns the joint venture and do it through a corporation. In the U.S., you can do joint venture agreements unincorporated or incorporated. Or advanced strategy, you can incorporate the joint venture and each of the owners can have their own corporation as parties to the joint venture. So there's lots of ways to get super complex and I provide extra layers of protection around that structure. What's important is this document covers what are you doing together, what's the game you're playing, how do you make decisions, how do you finance the venture as you go forward, starting and later, how do you transfer ownership? When you're friends, when you're not friends, you need to cover all of those different provisions. How do you prove the numbers? How do you show the accounting? How do you handle distributions? All of that is spelt out in this document. It's a huge, detailed document. You're going to absolutely love it if you take time to use it. And we're honored to give that to you as a template Of course, like all the templates, once you modify it all, get it all good, take it to a local attorney or a lawyer in your market. Make sure they take a look at it and give you legal advice on that. We're not lawyers. We don't pretend to be one on TV, but we do want you to save a bunch of money on your templates. So there you go, the asset purchase agreement and the full joint venture agreement. Tomorrow, we're going to give you some tips on how to go find partners and make it happen using these great tools. And that'll be our last of the 5 video series. Cheers.